I'm about to show you the results of a simulation I ran. 3 years ago, I created a hypothetical scenario where three different people were given $100,000 each and invested it according to three different philosophies. This isn't something that literally happened, but the data I used is real. And the results reveal something that most investing channels won't tell you because it doesn't fit the narrative they're pushing. Let me introduce you to Maria. Maria is obsessed with picking winners. When the market opened, she was already checking stock prices. By lunchtime, she'd read 5 analyst reports. By evening, she was watching earnings calls on YouTube at 1.5 speed. She genuinely believed that if she did the homework, she could beat the market. So in this simulation, when given $100,000, she did what she does best. She researched. She found companies with strong fundamentals, visionary leadership, and growth potential. She picked around 8 individual stocks: NVIDIA, Tesla, some healthcare companies, some software companies. She was convinced these would crush it. Then there's Carlos. Carlos looked at Maria's approach and basically laughed. He said, "You know what? I don't have time for this. The data shows that most people who pick stocks underperform. So I'm just going to buy VOO, which is a Vanguard index fund that tracks the entire S&P 500. He put his $100,000 into VOO, and then he literally forgot about it. He didn't check his portfolio for months. When he did finally look, he was like, oh, cool, it's up, and then he forgot about it again. And then there's David. David did something completely different. David said, I'm not going to try to pick winners like Maria because statistically, I'll probably fail. But I'm also not going to put everything in VOO like Carlos because I want some control and some income. So David built a hybrid portfolio. 50 grand went into SCHD, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, for that dividend income and stability. 30 grand went into 3 to 5 individual stock picks that he actually believed in, and 20 grand went into QQQ for growth exposure to tech and semiconductors. David wasn't trying to beat the market. He was trying to build something that would work for him personally. So here we are 3 years later. It's May 2026. Let's check the results. Maria is up 48%. Her $100,000 has turned into $148,000. And you know what? She's really happy about this. She beat the market by a lot. She picked NVIDIA early. She picked some other winners. Her research actually paid off. She feels vindicated. She feels like all those hours reading earnings reports were worth it. She's telling everyone that individual stocks are the way to go. Carlos is up 12%. His $100,000 is now $112,000. He barely thinks about his portfolio. He doesn't stress. He doesn't check prices obsessively. He just lets it sit there. And David? David is up 26%. His $100,000 is now $126,000. Not as high as Maria, but way better than Carlos. At first glance, Maria is clearly winning. She's up 48%. But let me ask you something. If you had to pick between these three right now based on pure returns, you'd pick Maria. That's obvious. Maria wins on the scoreboard. But let me ask you a different question. Who would you actually rather be? Maria, who's up 48%, but has probably spent 200 hours a year managing her portfolio and is currently stressed because NVIDIA dropped 15%? Or Carlos, who's up 12% and barely thinks about his portfolio? Or David, who's up 26% and has a mix of both? Most people would still pick Maria because of that 48% number. But here's where it gets interesting because I dug deeper into what's actually happening in each portfolio during market volatility. When the market had a correction, and NVIDIA dropped from 160 to 135, here's what happened. Maria's portfolio got hit hard. Her 80% in individual stocks dropped. She watched her $148,000 drop down towards $115,000. She didn't panic sell, but she came close. She's stressed. She's checking her portfolio multiple times a day. She's reading articles about whether AI is actually going to deliver returns or if it's all hype. Carlos's VOO portfolio also dropped, but he didn't even notice because he wasn't checking it. His portfolio went down maybe 28%, but since he wasn't looking, he didn't panic. David's portfolio dropped maybe 22%. His individual stock picks got hit, but his SCHD dividend position held up much better. His dividend income didn't disappear. And when the market recovers, which it always does, David's portfolio didn't have as far to climb back because he wasn't hit as hard. So now we have a clearer picture. Maria wins on returns, but loses on stress and sleep quality. Carlos wins on simplicity, but loses on returns. David is getting something else entirely. He's getting returns in the high 20s while sleeping at night. Let me show you the math that matters most over a long time horizon. In this simulation, all three held for 27 years. David's 50 grand in SCHD earning dividends at roughly 10% annual dividend growth historically could grow to somewhere between 600,000 and 800,000 just from that portion. His 30 grand in individual stocks, if even moderately successful, could grow to maybe 200 to 300,000. His 20 grand in QQQ could grow to maybe 200,000. Total around 1.0 to 1.3 million over 27 years. Carlos's VOO, historically returning about 10% a year, would grow his 100,000 to around 1.1 million. That's solid. That's real wealth. Maria's portfolio could theoretically match or exceed both if she picks enough winners, but statistically she probably won't. Most active investors underperform over 20-year periods once you factor in taxes, trading costs, and the emotional decisions they make along the way. So here's what the data actually shows. Maria can beat the market if she's genuinely skilled and doesn't panic sell. Carlos will definitely get wealthy if he just holds and doesn't touch anything for 27 years. But David? David gets wealthy while remaining sane. Here's what I actually learned from this simulation. Maria proves you can beat the market if you pick winners. She actually did it in this 3-year window. Carlos proves you can build solid wealth with zero effort by just buying and holding. David proves something more important. He proves that you don't have to choose between returns and peace of mind. The hybrid portfolio isn't the highest return portfolio. It's not the lowest effort portfolio. It's the portfolio that actually lets you be human. You can have returns in the mid to high 20s while sleeping at night. You can have dividend income that grows automatically without thinking about it. You can have individual stock conviction without betting your entire portfolio on your ability to pick winners. That's not sexy. That's not the story that gets clicks. But that's the portfolio that actually works over 20, 30, 40-year periods. Because the real measure of success isn't your best year. It's your total wealth after 27 years of sticking to your plan without panic selling or making emotional decisions. And for most people, the hybrid portfolio wins because it lets you actually stick to your plan. Maria's portfolio could theoretically outperform if she never makes an emotional decision, but most people do. They panic sell. They chase new trends. They second-guess their picks. Their actual returns end up being much lower than their theoretical returns. Carlos's portfolio will definitely get there if he just holds, but it requires 27 years of zero adjustments and zero checking. For some people, that's possible. For most people, it's really hard to not touch your money for 27 years. David's portfolio is the one that actually works because it's satisfying enough that you want to keep it. You're making some stock picks, so you feel like you have control. You have dividends paying you, so you feel like you're making money every quarter. You have growth exposure through QQQ, so you don't feel like you're missing out on the AI boom. And you're not so stressed that you make emotional decisions. That's the portfolio that actually wins. Not the one with the highest returns in any given year, but the one that you can actually stick with for decades while your money compounds in the background. The one that lets you sleep at night. The one that actually works for real humans with real emotions and real life events happening around them. Because investing isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the person who can actually stick to their plan while everyone else is freaking out. And that person is always the one with a portfolio they can live with.